AITA for not letting my sister attend my wedding after she tried to invite her entire extended family without asking me. I, 28F, have been with my fiancé, David, 30M, for 6 years. We finally decided to tie the knot this past year, and from the start, we agreed that we wanted a small, intimate wedding. Our plan was about 70 guests, mainly close family and our nearest friends. We were very upfront with everyone about the size because, honestly, we couldn't afford anything bigger, and we also didn't want a giant impersonal ceremony. Most of our families understood, except for my sister, Jessica, 32F. Jessica has always been a bit dramatic. She loves to be the center of attention and has a habit of pushing boundaries, but I tried to keep the peace over the years. I thought I could manage her expectations for the wedding too. When I sent out invitations, I explicitly told Jessica that she could invite her husband and their 2 kids, no one else. I didn't want to deal with a huge, extended family from her side showing up, and I had already explained this multiple times in casual conversations. Jessica seemed fine with it at first, but then things got weird. About 2 months before the wedding, she called me hysterical. Apparently, she thought it would be awkward for her parents, siblings, cousins, and her husband's family not to attend. She started listing people I had never even heard of, like Uncle Todd's second cousin and Cousin Marcy's in-laws, saying that she had to invite them because they were super close to her heart, and it would be rude not to include them. I told her again that our wedding was small, and we couldn't accommodate everyone. She cried, said I was being selfish and family-phobic, and hung up on me. A week later, she sent me a formal-looking invitation request list. She had included 23 people. 23. On a guest list where the total was supposed to be 70. That was a huge chunk. I tried reasoning with her. I told her, Jessica, I love you, but this is our wedding. We have to stick to the original plan. You can bring your husband and kids, that's it. She accused me of bullying her, said I didn't care about her family, and started posting subtle passive-aggressive stuff on social media about how some people's weddings are just for themselves. At this point, I was fed up. David supported me fully, and we decided to hold our ground. We sent Jessica a formal RSVP reiterating that only she, her husband, and her 2 kids were invited. We also gave her a friendly reminder that if more people showed up uninvited, we would have to turn them away. The day before the wedding, my parents called me frantically. Apparently, Jessica had invited her extended family anyway, and some of them had booked flights and hotels. My parents suggested that I just let it slide to avoid family drama. I refused. David and I agreed that letting them crash the wedding would ruin it for everyone else. On the wedding day, Jessica showed up with her husband, her kids, and 5 additional relatives. She had printed matching T-shirts for them with Team Bride on them, and she marched them into the venue like nothing was wrong. I walked over and told her, very politely, that the extra guests couldn't stay. She started screaming, saying that I was ruining her family's lives and that she was humiliated. My parents tried to mediate, but ultimately I asked the venue staff to handle it, and the additional relatives had to leave. Jessica didn't speak to me the rest of the day. She ignored all attempts at reconciliation at the reception and posted on social media about how my sister was the worst bride ever. A few days later, she called me again, furious, saying that I had embarrassed her and that I should never speak to her again. I told her she could either apologize or we wouldn't have a relationship. She's now blocked me on everything, and my parents are upset because they say I overreacted and should have been more flexible. Honestly, I feel justified. This was my wedding, not a family reunion. I tried to communicate clearly, gave her multiple warnings, and even let her bring her husband and kids. But she chose to disregard all boundaries, and I couldn't let her disrupt the day. So, Reddit, AITA for not letting my sister and her extra guests crash my wedding. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and motivates me to keep creating more great content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Thanks so much for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after a family emergency. This is going to be a long one, so please bear with me. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F, and we've always had a pretty complicated relationship. Growing up, our parents favored her a lot more than me. And even though we're both adults now, I still feel that some of the old resentments linger. Recently, things got worse, and now my extended family is divided over what happened. I want to know if I really am the asshole here, or if I'm justified in how I acted. A few months ago, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 30M. I'll be honest, I've never really liked Mark. He's charming, yes, and he seems nice on the surface, but he can be manipulative and, frankly, controlling. He has a history of pitting family members against each other, and I've seen it happen with some of my sister's friends as well. Emily and I have had heated arguments about it before, mostly because I feel like he's constantly influencing her decisions in ways that aren't good for her. Anyway, 2 weeks ago, I got a frantic call from my mom. She had been hospitalized suddenly after collapsing at home. I rushed over immediately, and when I arrived at the hospital, Emily and Mark were already there. My mom's condition was serious enough that she was going to need a few weeks of recovery at home once discharged, so I offered to let her stay with me until she was back on her feet. I live in a decent-sized 2-bedroom apartment, so I could set up a temporary room for her and still have my own space. Here's where the tension started. Emily immediately asked if she and Mark could stay with me as well. She claimed that they didn't want to leave their car alone at the hospital, and that the apartment would be convenient for them. I told her honestly that my apartment wasn't a hotel, and while I could absolutely host her mom temporarily, I couldn't accommodate both of them comfortably. Emily insisted that it wouldn't be for long, just a few days. I explained again that my apartment is small, and adding them would make everything very crowded, especially since I work from home and need quiet space. She got frustrated and said I was being unreasonable and selfish. I tried to compromise. I told her I could drop them off some essentials at my mom's house if they wanted, or help them find a nearby Airbnb, but I was firm about not hosting both of them. Emily then tried a different tactic: guilt. She reminded me that I didn't spend enough time with our mom when she was healthy and implied that by refusing, I was being a terrible daughter and sister. I stayed calm and repeated my position. Things escalated the next day. Emily started texting me multiple times a day, asking if we could just come for one night, and then turning it into a week-long stay. Mark started texting me too, telling me I was making a bigger deal than necessary, and that family is supposed to stick together. I blocked his number after a particularly rude message telling me I was cold-hearted for not letting them stay. Finally, my mom was discharged, and I helped her move in temporarily. Emily showed up anyway with Mark, carrying bags and insisting they were staying just one night. I told them again that I couldn't host them and that they needed to respect my boundaries. Emily started crying and accusing me of favoritism, saying I was always closer to Dad, who passed away years ago, and that I was trying to control everything now. Mark joined in, raising his voice and saying I was being dramatic. The confrontation got really ugly. My mom, who was exhausted from the hospital, begged them to leave and find a hotel. Emily refused at first, but eventually they stormed out after an hour-long argument. After they left, my mom hugged me and thanked me for setting boundaries, saying that it was good I was honest and not letting them take advantage of the situation. I felt relieved, but also drained, and I knew this was not going to blow over quickly. Now, a week later, family members are split. Some cousins on my dad's side are saying I was right to enforce my boundaries and that Emily and Mark were being manipulative. Others, mostly Emily's friends and some of our aunts, are saying I overreacted and that family should support each other, especially in a crisis. Emily hasn't spoken to me directly since the incident, but I've gotten texts from mutual friends and relatives calling me selfish, cold, and not truly family-oriented. I honestly feel I did the right thing. I was willing to care for my mom during a difficult time, but that doesn't mean I have to host my sister and her controlling fiancé in my apartment as well. I'm stressed, I need my personal space, and I didn't want to create a hostile environment for my mom, who was already vulnerable. I also didn't want to give in and risk letting Emily and Mark manipulate me in the future. Still, part of me worries that I might have been too harsh or that I should have found a way to accommodate them for even a short period. I don't like family drama, and I hate that this has caused such a rift. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister and her fiancé stay in my apartment after my mom's hospital discharge. AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding because of her partner. So this is going to be long, and I'm just going to try to lay it all out clearly. My sister, Megan, is getting married next year, and I've been her only sibling for 30 years, so she naturally assumed I would be heavily involved in the wedding planning. For context, I'm 32, live in a small city about 2 hours from where we grew up, and own my house. I've always been close with Megan, but over the last few years, things with her fiancé, Connor, have become increasingly tense. Megan and Connor have been dating for about 4 years. When they got engaged, I was happy for her, but I had an immediate gut feeling about him. Connor can be charming in short bursts, but he's also very controlling and dismissive of Megan's opinions. Over time, I started noticing how he treated her. He makes decisions for her without asking, belittles her subtly in front of others, and has a habit of gaslighting. I try to brush it off, thinking maybe I was just being overprotective. Fast forward to when Megan announced they wanted to have the wedding at my house. I live in a mid-sized house with a decent backyard that could accommodate a medium-sized outdoor wedding. Initially, I was flattered and excited. I love my sister, and hosting something like that felt special. But then things started escalating in ways I couldn't ignore. Megan and Connor made a list of must-haves for the wedding that completely ignored my space, my schedule, and even my budget. They wanted a tent that would cover the entire yard, rented furniture, professional lighting, and a live band, all in a backyard that really can't handle that scale. They also wanted me to cover catering costs because it's easier if it's on your property. I was taken aback. I've spent years saving for my home and paying off debt. I don't have thousands of dollars to throw at a wedding I'm not even benefiting from financially. When I said no to paying for catering, they tried to guilt me, saying things like, "It's your sister. Don't you want to help?" Or, "Everyone is going to think you're cheap if you don't host." I tried to set boundaries gently, saying, "I can host a small wedding or help you find a venue, but I can't cover tens of thousands of dollars in rentals and catering." Megan got defensive, and Connor started arguing about how I wasn't being a supportive sibling. It got worse when they started trying to dictate the layout and decor. They wanted to remove furniture that I'd bought and loved for my living room, claiming it would clash with the wedding colors. Connor even suggested painting my kitchen cabinets temporarily to match the theme. At this point, I realized they didn't see me as a host. They saw me as an accessory to their wedding, someone who existed only to make their dream happen exactly the way they wanted. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago. They came over unannounced with a contractor to measure the backyard for the tent. Connor said it would only take an hour and assumed I'd let them walk through the house. I told them no, this wasn't happening. That's when Megan got upset and said I was being selfish and ungrateful because she thought hosting at my house would be easier than renting a venue. Connor chimed in that I was throwing away family memories over money, which felt manipulative. I finally told them both that I could not host their wedding. I explained my reasons calmly. The costs, the disruption, the fact that their behavior toward me was not acceptable, and the long-term stress it would cause. Megan started crying and accused me of choosing Connor over her, which hurt because that's not true. I'm choosing to protect myself and my home. Connor, predictably, got angry and called me controlling, which is ironic considering how he treats Megan. Now the family is split. Some relatives think I should just put aside money and discomfort for my sister's big day, while others agree that hosting a wedding should be a choice, not an obligation, especially when the couple is making unreasonable demands. Megan has barely spoken to me since, and I've been accused of ruining her engagement. I love my sister and want her to be happy, but I also can't allow her fiancé to take over my home and my finances. I've suggested alternative solutions, helping them find a local venue, contributing in smaller ways like helping with decorations or coordination, or even covering part of the catering for the guests, but none of that seems to satisfy them. I'm starting to feel guilty because everyone is pressuring me, and I hate that Megan is upset. At the same time, I feel like I would be completely taken advantage of if I agree to host. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding because of her fiancé and the way they've treated me? AITA for refusing to let my stepdaughter have a pet despite my wife insisting it's fine? So, a bit of context first. I, 38M, have been married to my wife, Claire, 36F, for 6 years. Claire has a daughter, Emily, who is now 12. I have a good relationship with Emily. She calls me Dad, I treat her like my own, and generally we get along very well. That said, I also set some boundaries because I think kids need structure and rules. Emily has always wanted a pet, particularly a dog. Claire and I have discussed it over the years, and I was always hesitant. Our house is not huge, and I work a lot, so I was concerned about responsibility, costs, and the stress that comes with pet ownership. Claire has respected my stance until recently, but things escalated last month. Emily came to me saying she wanted a puppy for her birthday. I told her honestly that I didn't think it was a good idea right now. I explained that a pet is a huge commitment and that she's still young and busy with school, sports, and extracurricular activities. I also said that we should wait until we were in a better position, financially and time-wise, to bring a dog into our home. She got upset, but accepted my explanation, at least at first. Then, 2 weeks before her birthday, Claire pulled me aside. She said she understood my concerns, but she thought Emily deserved a pet, especially since she's been asking for years. Claire suggested we compromise with a smaller pet, like a hamster or fish. I said no. I felt like giving in, even for a small animal, would set a precedent that boundaries can be ignored if she wants something badly enough. I also genuinely worry that Emily wouldn't be responsible enough to care for even a smaller pet without constant supervision. Claire got frustrated. She said I was being overly controlling and that I was ruining her childhood. She argued that pets teach responsibility and empathy, and that I was overreacting. I tried to explain that I do want her to learn those things, but there are other ways, chores, volunteering, babysitting neighbors' pets, etc., that don't involve a long-term financial and emotional commitment we weren't ready for. The tension grew over the next few days. Emily started crying more and being moody, and Claire started dropping subtle hints about how I was always the bad guy in the house. Finally, the weekend before Emily's birthday, Claire decided to act. She secretly went to a local breeder and bought a small rabbit. She told Emily we would bring it home after her birthday. I only found out when I saw the receipt on the kitchen counter. I confronted Claire immediately. I was angry because this wasn't just about a pet. It was about respecting boundaries and making decisions as a family. I told her we could not have a rabbit in the house under these circumstances. She said I was overreacting and that I was being dictatorial about something so trivial. I pointed out that it's not trivial. It's a living being that requires care, attention, and money. I also said it's unfair to put me in a position where I'd have to either accept something I explicitly said no to or risk upsetting Emily and Claire. Claire and I ended up arguing for hours. She accused me of being selfish and rigid, and I accused her of being irresponsible and undermining me in front of Emily. Emily overheard some of it and started crying, saying she just wanted to love a pet. At that point, I tried to explain gently that it wasn't about her not deserving a pet. It was about timing and readiness. I offered alternatives, volunteering at a local animal shelter, helping friends or neighbors with pets, or even fostering animals temporarily so she could have the experience without the full commitment. She wasn't thrilled, but I thought it was a fair compromise. The next day, Claire left the rabbit at a friend's house without telling me, claiming she just didn't want to start a fight. Emily found out and was heartbroken. She asked me why I was so mean, and I explained again my reasons, emphasizing that it wasn't about being mean, but about responsibility and fairness. Emily eventually accepted it after a few tears, but Claire has been giving me the cold shoulder since. She keeps bringing up the rabbit and how I ruined the surprise, and she's been passive-aggressive about my rules. Now my parents are on my side, saying I was right to enforce boundaries, and Claire's friends are saying I'm too controlling. Emily is upset, but understands a bit. Claire is upset with me and says I need to learn to compromise and let her have small joys. I feel stuck. On one hand, I want Emily to be happy and have experiences like other kids, but on the other hand, I feel strongly that a pet is a responsibility we are not ready for as a family. I also don't want my wife to make unilateral decisions that affect the whole household. So, AITA for refusing to let Emily have a pet, and confronting my wife when she tried to get one anyway. AITA for refusing to go to my brother's wedding because of my stepmom. So, this is going to be a long one, and I'm trying to be as fair as possible, even though I know my feelings make me biased. I, 28M, have a brother, Jake, 32M, and we used to be really close when we were younger. Our parents divorced when we were kids, and my dad remarried when I was about 12. His new wife, Carla, has been in the picture ever since, and honestly, she has always rubbed me the wrong way, but I tried to keep things civil for my dad's sake. Fast forward to a few years ago. Jake and I were still close, and he was getting married. I was really happy for him. However, Carla started inserting herself into our lives in ways that made me uncomfortable. She's very controlling and loves to be the center of attention. When Jake and I were planning bachelor parties and other pre-wedding stuff, she would constantly call me to make sure I was behaving and try to micromanage things that didn't concern her. She once even criticized the venue I suggested for Jake's birthday party, saying it wasn't classy enough, even though Jake loved it. At the time, I brushed it off, thinking she just has a weird personality. Things came to a head when my dad got sick last year. He had a minor heart issue and had to stay in the hospital for a few days. Carla insisted on being the one to visit him, and when I went to check on him, she blocked me in the lobby and basically told me I couldn't see him because she was taking care of everything and didn't want me stressing him out. My dad later told me he wanted me there and was upset I wasn't allowed in, but Carla convinced him it was for his own good. This wasn't a one-time thing. There have been multiple incidents where she's tried to control interactions with our family. So now Jake is getting married again. He got engaged last year to a woman named Emily, who seems lovely. I genuinely want to be happy for him, but Carla has been making everything about her again. She's basically running the wedding planning behind the scenes, and she's been talking about it constantly to me in a way that feels manipulative. She sent me a long email demanding that I adhere to certain family expectations and telling me which outfits are acceptable, how I should behave, and even suggesting I avoid certain relatives because they might make the wedding less elegant. I felt like I was being treated like a child. I tried to talk to Jake privately about my concerns, explaining that Carla's controlling behavior is really stressful for me and that I don't want to fight with her at the wedding. I asked if he could set boundaries, but he told me he didn't want to deal with family drama and that I should just try to get along. I told him I'm not comfortable doing that because her behavior in the past has been emotionally exhausting for me, and it often involves him and others getting caught in the middle. He seemed frustrated but didn't push further. Last week, Carla sent me another email. This one was basically an ultimatum. She listed things she thought I should do to be a proper family member at the wedding and concluded with a line implying that if I didn't follow her rules, I would be making things difficult for everyone and that my absence would be disappointing for the family. That was the last straw. I replied politely but firmly, saying that I would not be attending the wedding because I cannot subject myself to being controlled and manipulated in such a high-stress environment. After I sent that, the backlash started. My dad is upset with me, saying I should try to get along for Jake's sake. Jake is hurt and keeps sending messages asking me to reconsider, saying it's not fair to Emily, who has nothing to do with this. Even some extended family members have texted me, saying I'm overreacting and that I should just be civil. I explained to everyone that it's about Carla's behavior and my inability to cope with it, not about Jake or Emily personally, but most people don't seem to get it. I feel awful because I really don't want to hurt my brother or his fiancée, but the thought of being trapped in an environment where I'm constantly policed and criticized by Carla makes me anxious and angry. I've been through therapy for anxiety, and my therapist says my instincts to avoid toxic situations are valid, but I can't shake the feeling that maybe I'm overreacting and being selfish. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to go to my brother's wedding because of my stepmom? I'm trying to do what's best for my mental health, but I also don't want to hurt Jake or Emily, who I care about deeply. The way I see it, Carla has a pattern of controlling behavior that I cannot tolerate, and I feel like attending the wedding would just validate that behavior and put me in a position where I could be publicly humiliated or manipulated. But at the same time, this is my brother's big day, and I know my absence will be noticed. I'm torn between protecting myself and maintaining family peace. I'm prepared for people to say I'm overreacting, but I genuinely believe this is the healthiest decision for me. I just need an honest verdict. AITA here? This version is about 6,900 characters. If you want, I can craft a second story that's even more dramatic, with multiple layers of family conflict and subtle moral dilemmas, hitting closer to the 7,000 character ceiling. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for ruining my sister's wedding because I refused to lie to my parents about something they asked? So, this is going to be a bit long because of a lot of context, and I want to be clear about everything. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emily, 26F, who just got married last month. Our family has always been complicated, and the events leading up to the wedding only made it worse. I'm honestly still conflicted about whether I was in the wrong, which is why I'm posting here. Emily and I grew up with parents who are very controlling, especially when it comes to appearances. Our parents, especially my mom, are obsessed with how things look to outsiders. They frequently comment on our choices, relationships, and even careers, and they expect us to obey without question. Emily, being the younger one, has always caved more easily to their pressure, whereas I've never been great at sugarcoating or going along with things I don't believe in. Emily got engaged last year, and from the start, the wedding planning was stressful because of my parents' demands. They wanted a huge, traditional wedding with all the trimmings, and they made it very clear that they expected me to help them execute their vision. I tried to set boundaries from the beginning, but my parents ignored me. They specifically demanded that I handle certain tasks on their behalf, like telling guests that my dad's side of the family, who live far away, would definitely be attending, even though they hadn't RSVP'd. I didn't feel comfortable doing this because I knew it was misleading. About 2 months before the wedding, my parents approached me with a request that completely crossed the line. My mom said, "Look, we need you to tell everyone that Aunt Claire is coming, even if she can't make it. Emily would be devastated if people find out she isn't here." Aunt Claire had been battling a severe illness and had told us months before that she might not make it, and we didn't want to spread false hope. I refused. I said I wouldn't lie, that it wasn't fair to Emily, and that it would only lead to disappointment when Aunt Claire couldn't actually attend. My parents flipped out, accusing me of being selfish and trying to ruin the wedding. I stood my ground because I genuinely felt that lying about someone's presence would be cruel. After that, tensions escalated. My mom started calling me manipulative and said I didn't care about Emily's happiness. I tried to explain that I cared deeply about Emily, which I do, but that lying to make my parents look good wasn't going to make the wedding better. Emily initially supported me privately, saying she didn't want me to feel forced, but she also got caught in the middle of my parents' manipulation. My dad began sending me passive-aggressive texts about how my refusal was destroying family harmony and that I owe it to my sister to just say Aunt Claire was coming. The week of the wedding, things reached a boiling point. My parents asked me to make a few last-minute calls to other relatives to tell them certain things about the wedding arrangements. One call in particular was to Uncle John, who had been outspoken about not attending because he couldn't get time off work. My parents wanted me to tell him that Emily insisted he would be attending and that he shouldn't make excuses. I refused, saying I wouldn't misrepresent someone else's plans. My mom completely lost it and screamed at me in front of Emily, saying I was being ridiculous, embarrassing, and ruining the whole wedding. Emily looked mortified but didn't say anything at the time. During the rehearsal dinner, my parents tried to corner me again. They whispered to Emily and said things like, "Why won't your sister just do this one thing? Is she really going to cause a scene on your special day?" Emily, who was exhausted from planning and trying to keep peace, finally confronted me privately. She told me she didn't want me to fight with our parents at the wedding, and she begged me to just go along this one time. I told her I couldn't lie about Aunt Claire or anyone else, and I explained that I didn't want to start the marriage off on a foundation of dishonesty. Emily said she understood, but was frustrated and tearful because she felt trapped. On the wedding day, things became even worse. My parents repeatedly asked me to handle it when guests asked about Aunt Claire and Uncle John. I politely told the truth to anyone who asked, explaining that Aunt Claire couldn't attend due to health reasons and that Uncle John wasn't coming because of work commitments. My parents were furious, and at one point, my dad made a scene at the reception, yelling at me in front of extended family. He said I had ruined everything and that Emily would never forgive me. Emily was caught between defending me and calming our parents. After the wedding, Emily thanked me privately for being honest, saying she knew it had been stressful for me and that she appreciated me protecting the truth. But the family fallout was intense. My parents haven't spoken to me much since the wedding. They continue to send me passive-aggressive messages and guilt trips about how I ruined Emily's big day. Extended family members have also subtly criticized me, saying I should have just gone along and that my parents were right to expect me to lie. I feel like I did the right thing by refusing to lie. I know lying might have kept my parents happy temporarily, but it would have felt dishonest and manipulative, and I don't want to build my relationship with my sister on a lie. Emily has been supportive, but I also feel guilty that my refusal caused her stress during her wedding. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to lie to my parents about whether certain family members were attending my sister's wedding. Even though it caused tension and upset, the situation left me feeling like no matter what I did, I would be blamed. I want to respect my sister's day, but I also didn't want to compromise my own integrity or contribute to family drama through dishonesty. The fallout has made me question my role in the family, and I'm unsure if I should have just taken one for the team to keep the peace, even if it meant lying. AITA, character count, 6,482 if you want. I can write another version that pushes closer to 7,000 characters with even more tension, side plots, and detailed interactions. This one is already solidly in the Reddit popular AITA style. Do you want me to expand it further? AITA for refusing to let my sister name her child after me despite her insistence. So I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 28F. Growing up, we were pretty close, but also competitive. I was always the responsible one, good grades, early career success, etc., while Emily was more free-spirited and often bounced between jobs or hobbies. Despite that, we got along well as adults, or at least I thought so. Emily recently got married and announced she was pregnant. I was genuinely happy for her, but then the drama started. A couple of weeks after her announcement, she called me out of the blue, sounding nervous. She told me that she and her husband had decided on a name for their baby and wanted to name the child after me. At first, I thought she meant using my first name as a middle name, which would have been fine, but no. She said they wanted to use my first name as the baby's first name, exactly the same spelling and everything. I was taken aback. I asked her why, and she said that I'd been a huge influence on her life, and she admired me so much that she wanted the baby to carry my name and spirit. I honestly didn't know what to say. It felt flattering in a weird way, but also uncomfortable. I tried to explain that naming a child after someone is a huge deal, and it would come with expectations that I didn't want to impose. I also told her it felt a little like she was trying to live through me, which I didn't think was fair to either of us. She got defensive immediately. She told me I was overreacting and that everyone always wants to honor family members in some way. She said it would be a beautiful tribute and that it wasn't about control, it was about admiration. I reminded her that a child is their own person, and I didn't want my name to carry unintentional pressure. She accused me of being selfish and not supporting her. I thought the conversation ended there, but then things escalated. She started dropping hints on social media about naming the baby after me, posting childhood photos of us with captions like, "I hope my little one turns out just like my amazing sister." People started commenting and congratulating me indirectly, saying how honored I must feel. It was bizarre, and honestly, I started feeling a lot of anxiety about the whole thing. Finally, I told her firmly that I could not give my consent to this. I explained that I wouldn't want my identity attached to someone else's child in that way, and that if she used my name without my approval, it could permanently damage our relationship. I thought she would understand, but instead, she exploded. She called me controlling, told me I was ruining her joy, and accused me of being jealous. She even implied that I didn't really love her if I couldn't let her honor me in this way. Since then, Our interactions have been tense. Our parents are involved now, taking her side, saying I should just let her do it because of the name and it's not a big deal. I tried to explain that this isn't just about the name. It's about boundaries and respecting that I don't want my identity transferred to someone else's child. My friends mostly think I'm right to have set the boundary, but the family pressure is intense. Emily recently told me that if I didn't soften my stance, she might still go ahead with naming the baby after me, and that she'd just hope I'd eventually feel honored instead of upset. That honestly terrified me. I feel like my personal autonomy is being dismissed completely, and I don't know how to navigate this without causing a permanent rift with my sister. I understand that she's excited about her child and wants to honor me, and I'm touched, truly. But I also feel like this is a huge overstep. It's not just a name, it's my identity, and I don't feel comfortable having it used this way. I have tried to compromise, suggesting using a variation of my name, my initials, or my middle name as a middle name, but she refuses. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister name her baby after me. I feel like setting boundaries is reasonable, but the way my family is framing it, I feel like the villain. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after a family dispute over my career choice. I, 28F, have always been someone who values independence and following my own path. My sister, Emily, 32F, and I grew up in a very traditional household where success was measured by conventional standards: steady job, nice house, marriage, and children. I, however, always knew I wanted something different. From a young age, I was drawn to art and creative expression, while Emily excelled academically and pursued a corporate career. Over the years, our parents have always made it clear that Emily's path was the right one, and my choices were often dismissed as impractical. After college, I moved to a different city and began working as a freelance illustrator. It's not a high-paying job, especially at first, but allows me the flexibility to work on projects I'm passionate about and even travel. For the most part, I've been happy with my life, though I know it frustrates my parents that I don't have a traditional career. Emily, on the other hand, works in finance and has a life that aligns perfectly with what our parents envisioned. Earlier this year, Emily got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark, who comes from a similarly traditional family. When she announced her wedding date, my parents immediately started talking about the obligations of attending and helping out. They expected me to fly home for a week-long series of pre-wedding events, including engagement parties, dress fittings, and family dinners. I had already planned a big freelance project that would take up most of the month, but I initially tried to work around it. Things started to unravel when my sister and I had a conversation about my career. She brought up that she was worried about me being irresponsible and not having a stable income. She said, "I just don't want you showing up to my wedding looking like you're failing at life. It's supposed to be a happy day, not a reminder of how different our choices are." I was taken aback because her words felt less like concern and more like judgment. I tried to explain that I'm happy with my career and that success looks different for everyone, but she wouldn't let it go. She said, "You can be happy, sure, but you also need to think about appearances. Mom and Dad will be mortified if people see how messy your life is." That comment hurt more than anything. I worked hard to build a life I love, even if it doesn't fit the mold my family expects. I ended the conversation frustrated and started considering skipping the wedding entirely. I thought maybe if I explained my side calmly, people would understand, but when I mentioned the idea to my parents, they reacted extremely negatively. My mom said, "Emily will be devastated. You can't just ignore family obligations because of your pride." My dad added, "You're acting selfishly. This isn't about your career or your happiness. It's about supporting your sister on her big day." I tried to reason with them, pointing out that attending the wedding while feeling judged and unwelcome would be emotionally draining and potentially ruin what should be a joyful occasion for everyone. They accused me of being dramatic and self-centered, claiming that I was prioritizing my own feelings over family unity. The tipping point came when Emily sent me a text the night before her bridal shower. She said, "I know you're busy and I guess you have your own life, but it really hurts that you're not making more effort to be there. I don't understand why you can't just put your issues aside for 1 week. If you can't, maybe you shouldn't come at all. After reading that, I realized that attending would feel more like a performance than genuine support. I replied honestly, explaining that I want to celebrate her and be part of her life, but I cannot do it if I have to feel ashamed of my choices and live under constant scrutiny. I told her that I would be sending a gift and planned to have a personal dinner with her at a later date where we could celebrate without tension. My response set off a chain reaction. My parents were furious, accusing me of ruining the family and embarrassing Emily. Emily called me selfish and claimed that I was prioritizing my ego over her happiness. Extended family members also chimed in, some siding with my parents, others quietly expressing sympathy but not openly criticizing Emily or my parents. Since then, I've been feeling a mix of guilt and relief. I haven't spoken to Emily since, though she hasn't blocked me. My parents are still pressuring me to apologize and do the right thing by attending the wedding. Friends who know the full story have told me I'm not wrong for protecting my mental health, but I can't shake the feeling that maybe I've overreacted. I want to support my sister without compromising my self-respect, but it feels like she and my parents want me to choose between the two. I'm struggling with whether refusing to attend a single week-long event justifies the fallout. I also wonder if I could have handled things differently to avoid this confrontation. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the way my family has treated me regarding my career and life choices. Character count, 6,582 if you want. I can write 2 more variations in this style, each with slightly different dramatic family dynamics, so you can see which one hits the popular Reddit tone best. Do you want me to do that? Hey friends, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. We genuinely want to know what you enjoy and what we can improve. What did you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future uploads? Your feedback helps us get better every day. Thanks for sticking with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what she did to me. I, 28F, have always been very close to my older sister, Jenna, 32F. Growing up, we had a typical sibling relationship, plenty of fights over trivial stuff, but overall supportive. Our parents live abroad, so when Jenna got engaged last year, I was genuinely excited for her. She was always a little controlling, but I thought I could handle it for the sake of family harmony. Fast forward to the wedding planning. Jenna decided very early on that she wanted a small, intimate ceremony with only immediate family and a few close friends. She asked me to help with some of the planning because she knew I enjoy organizing events. I was thrilled and dedicated a lot of my time to helping her choose venues, caterers, and decor. I even took time off work to assist with the logistics. About 6 months into planning, things started to get weird. Jenna began making increasingly unreasonable demands. She insisted that every single detail match her Pinterest board, from the exact shade of flowers to the placement of napkins. Initially, I tried to accommodate her, but I started noticing a pattern. Whenever she was unhappy with something, she would lash out at me. It got to the point where I felt like I was walking on eggshells every time we spoke. The breaking point came a month ago. Jenna called me in tears because the dress she wanted for me as a bridesmaid was sold out of my size. I suggested a few alternatives she might like, but she exploded. She yelled at me for not trying hard enough to find the dress and accused me of sabotaging her wedding. The conversation ended with her saying, and I quote, "If you can't do this perfectly for me, maybe you shouldn't be in my wedding at all." I tried to brush it off, thinking it was just stress talking. But then the next week, she sent me a list of mandatory contributions that included tasks like picking up the flowers, coordinating with the photographer, and even baking a cake from scratch, on top of covering the cost of my bridesmaid dress, hair, makeup, and travel expenses. When I told her that I simply couldn't manage all of that on top of my full-time job, she accused me of being selfish and ruining her special day. The final straw came last week. She texted me a screenshot of a conversation she had with her friend, who suggested that my fiancé, Matt, 30M, should also help with the wedding. She responded, "No, he won't do enough. I need sister's name to handle it herself. She's always been lazy anyway." She didn't even discuss it with me. She just assumed I was incapable and unhelpful. At this point, I realized that Jenna's small, intimate wedding was becoming an emotional minefield. She was manipulating me, guilting me, and making me feel like a failure just for existing. I tried having a calm conversation about boundaries, explaining that I was happy to help in reasonable ways, but couldn't be responsible for every aspect of the wedding. She refused to listen and claimed I was being dramatic and overreacting. I finally told her yesterday that I could not attend her wedding if things continued this way. I explained that I loved her, but could not subject myself to weeks of emotional abuse for a day of celebration. Her response was to call me selfish, cruel, and accuse me of hating her happiness. She also threatened to exclude me from all future family events if I didn't change my mind. Now my parents are involved. They are torn. They say I should make sacrifices for family and think about the bigger picture, but they also acknowledge that Jenna has been extremely controlling and unfair. Some of my friends say I'm doing the right thing, but others think I'm overreacting and should just suck it up for one day. I feel hurt, angry, and betrayed. This was supposed to be a joyful time for my sister and me, but instead, it has turned into a nightmare. I know missing a sibling's wedding is a big deal, but I also know that attending would come at the cost of my mental health. I can't stop thinking about how she would likely continue to manipulate me if I went. At the same time, I can't shake the guilt of potentially disappointing family and friends. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she repeatedly treated me like I was the problem for not meeting impossible expectations. AITA for refusing to let my brother stay at my house after he made some questionable choices that affected my family. This is going to be a long one, so I'll try to give all the details without leaving anything important out. I, 32M, have a younger brother, Tom, 28M. We've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, he was a bit of a wild card, funny and charming, but often irresponsible. Our parents spoiled him a lot, which didn't help his tendency to avoid responsibility. I, on the other hand, was more cautious and structured. Over the years, that difference caused tension between us, but I've always tried to keep a relationship going with him because, well, he's my brother. Fast forward a few years, and I'm married to my wife, Anna, 30F, and we have 2 kids, ages 5 and 3. We live in a modest but comfortable house in the suburbs. I work full-time, and Anna is a stay-at-home parent, so we juggle a lot of responsibilities together. Tom recently went through a breakup with his girlfriend of 3 years. He called me one night, completely upset, saying he had nowhere to go and needed a place to crash for a while. At first, I was hesitant because our past experiences with him crashing at our place were chaotic. However, feeling guilty and wanting to be supportive, I agreed to let him stay for a few days while he figured things out. The first few days were mostly fine. He was quiet, kept to his room, and didn't interfere with the kids or our schedule. Then things started to get weird. One morning, Anna mentioned that she found some empty beer cans in the recycling that weren't ours. I confronted Tom, and he admitted he had been drinking in our garage late at night. He promised it wouldn't happen again. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. The next incident was more serious. Our toddler has a favorite stuffed animal he takes everywhere, and one evening, the toy went missing. We searched everywhere and eventually found it in Tom's room. He claimed he found it on the couch and thought it looked lonely and wanted to keep it safe. I was beyond frustrated, but didn't want to escalate things immediately. So I returned the toy to the toddler and warned Tom that taking other people's things wasn't acceptable. Things really escalated a week into his stay. I worked from home part of the time, and Tom started inviting friends over without asking. At first, it was just 1 or 2 people, but soon, our living room looked like a small party venue. Music blasting, drinks being spilled, and the kids were terrified of the loud strangers running around. Anna and I had multiple conversations with him about boundaries, and he seemed to agree each time, but the behavior continued. The breaking point came one night when I got home from a late meeting. I walked into the living room to find Tom passed out on our couch with 3 of his friends still there, some of them smoking what I later found out was marijuana. Our kids were in the next room, playing quietly, completely unaware of what was happening. I was furious. Anna was in tears. I confronted Tom, told him he had to leave immediately, and called one of his friends a cab. He argued for a while, saying he couldn't go anywhere and that I was being unfair. I stood my ground, and finally he packed some clothes and left in the cab. After he left, things between Anna and me were tense because she felt I hadn't been strict enough at the beginning, which allowed things to spiral. I also felt guilty that I had let him crash here in the first place, thinking I was being supportive. I thought family meant helping each other out, but I learned that helping doesn't mean letting someone disrespect your home and family. 2 weeks later, my parents called and asked why Tom had left in such a rush. I told them everything. My mom was sympathetic toward Tom and suggested that maybe I overreacted, that he was just going through a rough time and needed support. My dad, on the other hand, agreed with me but told me that my brother might hold a grudge because he doesn't like being told no. Now, here's where the issue comes in. Tom has been texting me almost daily, asking if he can come back for a week. He's promising he'll behave this time, that he'll get a hotel if necessary, and that he just wants a safe place to stay while he gets back on his feet. Anna is completely against it. She doesn't trust him, and frankly, I don't either. I tried explaining this to Tom, and he accused me of being selfish and not caring about family. He said I'm treating him worse than I would treat a stranger. I feel caught because I do want to help him, but I also have a responsibility to my wife and kids. I've offered to help him financially if he needs it, or even help him find temporary housing, but he insists on staying in my house. I've been firm, but now some extended family members are starting to ask why I'm turning my brother away in his time of need. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother stay at my house again? I feel like I've done everything I reasonably can to support him without jeopardizing my family's well-being, but he sees it as a personal attack. I'm genuinely torn between wanting to be a supportive brother and protecting my home and family. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding because of a family feud that I didn't start. This is going to be long, so I'll try to keep it as organized as possible. I, 32F, have a cousin, Sarah, 30F, who is getting married in a few months. We were close when we were kids, but drifted apart during high school and college. Our families have always had a bit of tension, mostly small things that were blown out of proportion, but I never thought it would affect something like a wedding. Here's the context. About 8 years ago, my family got into a dispute with Sarah's family over property that was left to both sides by a relative. It wasn't anything illegal. It was mostly disagreements over upkeep and financial contributions. My parents and I try to stay neutral, but Sarah's mom has always had a very loud personality and doesn't hide her opinions. Things escalated, and for a while, there was very little communication between the families. I'll admit, during that period, I didn't reach out to Sarah much, mostly because I didn't want to get involved in the arguments and also because I wasn't sure she wanted to talk to me. Fast forward to now, Sarah got engaged last year, and invitations went out a few months ago. My parents encouraged me to go despite the past, saying that it would be a chance to mend fences. I hesitated, but I thought, okay, maybe this is the right time to try. I reached out to Sarah via text to congratulate her. Her response was short and polite, but I noticed she didn't seem thrilled to hear from me. I brushed it off and decided that at the very least I would go to the wedding to support her. Then things got complicated. A few weeks ago, my aunt, Sarah's mom, sent me a group message that included other cousins, making a very passive-aggressive joke about how some people never show up to family events and must be too busy being important somewhere else. It was obvious she was referencing me, even though she didn't tag me specifically. I didn't respond. My parents told me to just ignore it, but I couldn't. It felt like she was trying to shame me before I even had the chance to commit to attending. I also learned from another cousin that my aunt had been calling other family members to say that she didn't expect me to come and that it would be awkward if I did. This made me feel unwelcome and hurt. I texted Sarah again to clarify if she really wanted me there. She said she did, but I could tell she was trying to stay neutral because she knows how tense things are with her mom. I then asked her if her mom would be respectful during the wedding, and she hesitated. She didn't promise anything, saying that her mom can't help herself and that I shouldn't expect her to change. That was the last straw for me. I told my parents I didn't want to attend because I didn't want to be humiliated in front of the rest of the family. My parents were upset, saying that this could be a chance to reconcile with Sarah and that I was letting her down. They also mentioned that Sarah had expressed disappointment that I wasn't coming. I feel guilty about this because I don't want to hurt her, but I also feel like I would be putting myself in a situation where I'm being deliberately targeted and would likely end up in tears or in conflict during what should be a happy event. The fallout has been immediate. A few cousins have confronted me on social media, calling me selfish and saying that family events should be bigger than grudges. Some have accused me of holding on to past issues forever and that I'm ruining the wedding by not attending. Sarah hasn't spoken much to me since I told my parents I wasn't going. I did try to write her a heartfelt message explaining that I wanted to celebrate her, but I couldn't attend because of how her mom's behavior makes me feel. She replied with a brief, polite, "I understand, but I don't know if she's truly okay with it or just being polite." I've tried considering going anyway and just ignoring my aunt, but the idea of being surrounded by passive-aggressive comments, whispered conversations, and public shaming terrifies me. I've also had anxiety attacks in the past during tense family gatherings, and I don't want to risk my mental health. So here's my question. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding because of a toxic family member, even though my cousin technically invited me and might be hurt by my absence? I genuinely want to celebrate her, but I can't imagine doing so while feeling like I'm being targeted. I know some people might say I should rise above it and not let her mom ruin it, but from my perspective, that seems easier said than done. At this point, I feel like any attempt to attend would just be a performance for everyone else while my anxiety is sky high. I also don't know if I'm overreacting. Am I making the situation about myself too much? I just don't want to create more drama. But at the same time, I don't want to put myself in an emotionally unsafe environment. Has anyone here dealt with something similar? How do you balance wanting to support family without letting them hurt you in the process? I'm torn because I genuinely love my cousin and want her to have a wonderful wedding, but I also have to prioritize my own well-being. AITA for choosing not to attend? AITA for refusing to let my sister move in with me after she quit her job and left her husband? I, 33F, have always tried to be the responsible one in my family. I work a stable corporate job, live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in the city, and have my finances in order. My younger sister, Emily, 29F, has always been a bit more impulsive. Over the years, she's had a series of short-term jobs, relationships that fizzle out quickly, and she tends to make decisions without thinking about the consequences. I love her, but sometimes her choices frustrate me. About 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Emily out of the blue. She sounded frantic. She told me she had left her husband, Mark, because he was emotionally abusive, and that she had quit her job at a local boutique because her manager was making her miserable. She said she had nowhere to go and asked if she could move in with me until she figured things out. I was taken aback. I love Emily, but the timing couldn't have been worse. I just signed a lease for a bigger apartment that was a bit more expensive than my previous one, and I had budgeted carefully to make it work. Adding another person to the mix would make things financially tight. On top of that, I work long hours and have a lot of responsibilities, and I value my alone time. My apartment isn't huge, and it's not really set up for 2 people to live comfortably. I told Emily I was really sorry, but I didn't think it would be a good idea for her to move in. I offered to help her find a short-term rental, gave her some contacts for apartments, and offered to help with moving logistics. She immediately got defensive and started crying, accusing me of not caring about her. She said I was selfish and that family should stick together no matter what. Over the next few days, she kept calling and texting me. Every time, she would bring up her situation and how desperate she was. I tried to stay firm, but I started feeling guilty. I even thought about letting her stay for a week or so, just to give her a buffer while she got on her feet. But then I thought about the potential stress it could cause both of us. She has a tendency to get emotionally intense, and I was worried it could damage our relationship. The breaking point came last weekend. I was hosting a small dinner party for a few friends at my apartment. Emily showed up uninvited, saying she was just dropping by to talk. I told her she couldn't come in because I had guests. She tried to argue, and when I stood my ground, she left a voicemail saying that I was cruel and that I didn't care about family. I felt awful, but also relieved that I didn't cave. A couple of days later, my parents got involved. They called me and said I needed to let Emily move in, at least temporarily. They said I was being unreasonable and selfish, and that it was my duty as her older sister to help. I explained my side, my financial situation, my work schedule, my need for personal space, and the fact that I had offered other ways to help. My parents weren't convinced. They said I was turning my back on family in her time of need. Emily also posted about the situation on social media, framing it as me refusing to help her after leaving an abusive marriage and quitting her job. A lot of my extended family and some friends messaged me, either in support of Emily or to pressure me to let her stay. I've been trying to stay calm and polite, but the backlash has been intense. I feel like I'm being punished for having boundaries. I thought about trying to compromise by offering her my spare bedroom for a short period, but then I remembered how volatile our last few interactions have been. I'm worried that even a temporary stay could lead to arguments, resentment, and possibly damage our relationship beyond repair. At the same time, I hate feeling like the villain in everyone's eyes, especially when I genuinely want to help her in ways that are realistic for me. To clarify, I'm not refusing to help Emily entirely. I've offered financial advice, apartment contacts, moving help, and emotional support. I just don't feel that having her move in with me is a healthy solution for either of us. I want her to have stability, but I also want to protect my mental health and my living space. I've been having a lot of sleepless nights because of this, constantly questioning if I'm being a bad sister. My friends are split. Some say I'm reasonable, others say I'm cold. My parents are disappointed, and I haven't talked to Emily much since the dinner incident, but I know she's hurt and angry. I don't want to lose my relationship with her, but I also don't know if letting her move in would be the right choice. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister move in with me after she left her husband and quit her job, even though I'm still offering other ways to support her. AITA for refusing to attend my cousin's wedding because of a long-standing family issue. So, this is going to be long, but I feel like context is important here. I, 28F, have a complicated relationship with my extended family, especially my cousin. Let's call her Jessica, 30F, who is getting married next month. To give some background, my cousin and I grew up in the same town, and while we were friendly as kids, things started to go downhill when we were teenagers. Jessica has always had a tendency to manipulate situations to her advantage, and over the years, it's created a lot of tension with me and a few other relatives. The main issue started around my 18th birthday. My family hosted a big party for me, and Jessica managed to make it about her. She invited a huge group of her friends without asking anyone, and during the party, she did things like insist that everyone play games she picked, dominate conversations, and even borrow gifts I had received to show off to her friends. My parents and other relatives saw what was happening but didn't confront her at the time, and honestly, I just felt humiliated. It wasn't just that day, though. There have been multiple occasions over the years where she's done things that made me uncomfortable or embarrassed in front of family, taking credit for things I did, making backhanded remarks, and generally making family events stressful for me. Fast forward a few years, I moved out of our hometown for work and didn't keep in touch with Jessica much. My immediate family has always been supportive, but they're kind of let-it-slide types when it comes to her behavior. About 6 months ago, I got the invitation to her wedding. I was conflicted because I haven't seen her in years, and part of me wanted to maintain family peace. However, the thought of being in a situation where she might try to outshine me, embarrass me, or manipulate situations again made me extremely anxious. I also have some social anxiety, and her presence has always been a trigger for me. I tried to explain this to my parents, but they insisted that family comes first and that I should put my feelings aside for one day. They also said that skipping the wedding would cause unnecessary drama and make me look petty. I felt guilty, but I knew that attending would be very uncomfortable for me. I considered going just for a short time, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that even a short appearance might lead to awkward confrontations or passive-aggressive comments from Jessica. I decided to write her a message explaining that I wouldn't be able to attend. I tried to word it politely, saying that I wish her the best and I hope her day is wonderful, but that I won't be attending due to personal reasons and family dynamics that are difficult for me. I didn't go into too much detail because I didn't want to start an argument or make the situation even worse. I honestly expected that she might be upset, but I didn't expect the reaction I got. Jessica responded with a long, furious message accusing me of being selfish, petty, and holding on to grudges for no reason. She also claimed that I was making her day about myself and that the rest of the family would be disappointed in me. She specifically mentioned that she had done nothing wrong and that I was overreacting to the past. I forwarded her message to my parents, hoping for some support, but instead, they were upset with me for creating a rift and told me I should just apologize and attend the wedding to keep the peace. I haven't replied to Jessica since. My immediate family is mostly supportive privately, but they keep telling me I need to smooth things over for the larger family's sake. I've had friends tell me that I'm not wrong for protecting my mental health, but the guilt is weighing on me, especially because I know some family members are hurt that I won't be there. My aunt even called me crying, saying that she understands why I feel uncomfortable, but that the wedding will never be the same without me. Here's where I'm really questioning myself. I feel strongly that attending would be emotionally taxing, and I don't want to put myself in a situation that I know could trigger anxiety or feelings of humiliation. On the other hand, I can see that my absence might upset other family members and make me appear petty or vindictive. I've considered sending a gift and a card to show that I care, but I worry that it won't be enough and that I'll still be judged for not physically attending. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to go to my cousin's wedding because of a long-standing family issue and my own emotional well-being. I feel torn because I want to maintain boundaries, but I also don't want to be seen as the problem in the family. AITA for refusing to let my sister name her child after my late father, even though she claims it would honor him. My sister, Lena, and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, we were close in some ways, but there was always a sense of competition between us, mostly fueled by our parents. Our father passed away unexpectedly about 3 years ago, and since then, Lena and I have both struggled with grief in different ways. I personally have been trying to process it quietly and keep the memories of my dad in my own way, but Lena has been very vocal about her desire to carry on his legacy, which is where the conflict began. Lena announced she was pregnant about a year ago. She and her husband were overjoyed and shared their excitement with the family. Initially, I was supportive. I wanted her to feel happy and celebrated. But then came the topic of the baby's name. She casually mentioned during a family dinner that she wanted to name her child after my late father, including his first and middle names, which are pretty unique and not common at all. At first, I laughed it off, thinking it was a way of honoring him, but then it started to feel uncomfortable. My father was someone very special to me, and the idea that someone else would carry his exact name, especially my sister's child, felt like an intrusion into my personal connection with him. I told Lena that I wasn't sure I was comfortable with the name choice. I tried to explain gently that our father's name has always felt like something sacred to me, and naming her child after him might feel like she was taking that away in a sense. Lena immediately got defensive. She said I was being unreasonable and selfish, claiming that naming her baby after our dad was the ultimate form of tribute. She told me that I was overreacting and that no one else in the family had a problem with it. I reminded her that I was a significant part of the family and that my feelings should matter too. She rolled her eyes and said that she wasn't going to let me control her baby's name. Things escalated when our parents got involved. My mom took Lena's side, saying that it was a beautiful gesture and that I needed to let go of my possessiveness over my father's memory. My dad agreed, though he tried to phrase it more diplomatically, suggesting that both of us should be able to honor our father in our own ways. I felt hurt and silenced, like my grief was being dismissed. I offered a compromise, suggesting that Lena could use my father's name as a middle name or that we could find another way to honor him in the baby's name. I even offered to help come up with alternative names that had personal significance to my father without being exactly the same. Lena refused outright, saying that a compromise wasn't enough and that she wanted the full name. The tension has been building ever since. I've tried to avoid the topic, but every family gathering now feels awkward. I can feel my resentment growing because it seems like no one is considering how important my father's name is to me. My friends are divided on the issue. Some say I'm being controlling, while others say I have a right to protect my father's memory. A few weeks ago, Lena told me she was finalizing the birth certificate and asked me to just get over it and accept the name. I told her I couldn't, and I explained that I needed to set boundaries for my own mental health. She hasn't spoken to me since that conversation. Our parents are frustrated, claiming I'm being dramatic and ruining family harmony. I've been reflecting on whether I am in the wrong. I understand that she wants to honor our father, and I don't want to take away her joy. But at the same time, I can't shake the feeling that this is deeply personal to me, and it's not just about the name itself. It's about my connection with my dad and the grief I am still processing. I considered staying silent and pretending it's okay, but I feel like I'd be compromising my own emotional well-being in a major way. I've even thought about writing her a letter to explain my feelings more fully, but I'm worried it will only make things worse. I don't want to cause a permanent rift, but I also can't ignore my own sense of loss and the boundaries I feel I need. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister name her child after my late father, even though she claims it would honor him. Character count, 6,432 if you want. I can write an even longer version close to 7,000 characters with more detailed family dynamics, flashbacks to the father, and extra emotional tension, which tend to make stories go viral on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's extravagant wedding because of her demands? I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Lily, 25F. Growing up, we were inseparable, and we supported each other through pretty much everything. That said, over the past few years, our relationship has become strained due to her increasingly controlling behavior, especially when it comes to major life events. Lily got engaged about a year ago, and from the beginning, she has been absolutely obsessed with the idea of having a perfect wedding. I'm talking literally perfect. She's planned every detail down to the napkin colors, the seating arrangement, and even the angle at which the flowers should sit on each table. She's hired a wedding planner, a photographer, a videographer, and a live band. And she's been sending me endless guidelines about what I should wear, how I should behave, and even what I should say in my toast if I give one. At first, I tried to be accommodating. I bought the dress she approved after sending me a list of 10 options that were acceptable, and I agreed to be in her bridal party despite my busy work schedule. But things started getting ridiculous. She started sending me messages late at night asking me to pick out shoes that matched the exact shade of her bridesmaids' dresses. Then she insisted that I attend a full-day bridal boot camp she was hosting for all the bridesmaids, which included makeup trials, posture lessons, and choreography practice for the dance we were supposed to perform at the reception. The breaking point came when she demanded that I get a professional teeth whitening treatment so my smile would look perfect in all the photos. She told me that if I didn't do it, I would ruin the aesthetic she's working so hard to create. I told her I wasn't comfortable doing that, and she immediately blew up at me, calling me selfish and saying that I clearly didn't care about her special day. I tried reasoning with her. I explained that I didn't want to compromise my health or finances for cosmetic reasons, that I was already spending a lot on the dress, travel, and hotel, and that the day was about her happiness, not my teeth. She didn't listen and continued to guilt-trip me, sending long messages about how family should be willing to make sacrifices for each other. After a couple of weeks of this back and forth, I made a decision. I'm not going to attend the wedding if she keeps imposing these kinds of demands. I told her exactly that, saying I'd love to celebrate with her in other ways, like a small family dinner or helping with the wedding planning behind the scenes. But I will not be subjected to things that make me uncomfortable or that feel unnecessary. She responded by saying I was emotionally blackmailing her and that I was choosing my comfort over our family bond. Since then, my parents have been caught in the middle. They think I should go to the wedding no matter what because it's her big day, and they've tried to pressure me into attending, saying things like, "You'll regret it if you miss it," and "She's only asking for this because she loves you." I feel like they're not really considering my perspective. I also spoke to some friends about it, and they're divided. Some think I'm overreacting and that I should just grin and bear it for one day, while others say I'm entirely justified for setting boundaries. I'm torn because I do want to support my sister, but I also feel like she's crossed a line in treating me as if my participation in her wedding comes with strings attached that make me uncomfortable. It's not just about the teeth whitening. It's the pattern of control and the constant demands for perfection that make it feel more like an obligation than a celebration. The wedding is in 2 months, and as of now, I haven't changed my stance. My sister has stopped speaking to me entirely. My parents are frustrated, and my friends are urging me to compromise somehow, which I feel would just mean giving in to unreasonable demands. I honestly don't know if I'm in the wrong here. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I won't comply with all her extreme demands. Character count, 6,175. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. So, this is going to be long, but I feel like the details are important. I, 28F, have always been close with my sister, Emma, 31F. We grew up in a small town, and she's always been the more outgoing, adventurous one, while I was quieter and more cautious. Despite our differences, we've always had a strong bond, and I thought we'd always be on the same page when it came to major life events. A little over a year ago, Emma met someone new, Jake, 33M. At first, I tried to be supportive because Emma seemed genuinely happy. But over time, I started noticing red flags that worried me. Jake has a very controlling personality and can be manipulative. There were multiple instances where he would make jokes at Emma's expense in front of others or subtly insult her choices, and she would laugh it off, but I could tell it bothered her. I tried bringing it up gently once, and she said I was overreacting and that he was just teasing. Things escalated when they got engaged. Right after the engagement, Emma asked me to help with wedding planning. Initially, I was excited, but I quickly realized that Jake was trying to control everything about the wedding, from the guest list to the decorations to the menu. He would veto ideas Emma suggested and insist that his preferences were the only reasonable ones. I tried to support Emma without creating conflict, but it became increasingly stressful. The biggest issue came during the last few months leading up to the wedding. Jake had started inviting his friends and family to every planning meeting, even when Emma didn't want them there. He would argue over minor things and insist that everything be exactly his way. I noticed that Emma seemed more anxious and less herself. I tried talking to her privately about it. She admitted that she was stressed, but she kept insisting that she loved him and that everything would be fine. Then came the rehearsal dinner. Jake got into a heated argument with one of Emma's relatives over seating arrangements. I tried to defuse the situation, but he shouted at everyone and stormed out. Emma was crying, apologizing to her relatives, and I tried to comfort her. I told her that if Jake was going to act like that at the wedding, it might be better to reconsider some things, but she said she was too committed to back out now. The final straw for me happened a week before the wedding. Jake started pressuring Emma to cut down the guest list to only his family and friends, claiming that my family and I were too negative and that it would ruin the wedding vibe. He even tried to convince Emma not to invite me at all, saying that I was overreacting and making a big deal out of nothing. Emma didn't immediately agree, but I could tell she was hesitant to stand up to him. I had a long talk with my parents about it, and they admitted they had noticed Jake's controlling behavior too. My mom said she thought it would be healthier for me to step back if I felt unsafe or unwelcome. After thinking about it for a few days, I made the decision to tell Emma that I couldn't attend the wedding. I explained that I loved her, but I couldn't be part of an event where I knew her fiancé was treating her poorly and where my presence was being discouraged. I also said that I wanted her to be happy, but I couldn't compromise my principles or my mental health to do so. Emma reacted very poorly. She accused me of being selfish and unsupportive and said I was choosing a man over my own sister. She cried and told me that I was abandoning her at the most important moment of her life. Our parents were upset too, though they didn't force me to go. Some mutual friends have sided with Emma, saying I should put my feelings aside for family, while others privately said they understood why I stepped back. Since then, Emma has stopped talking to me much. She posts pictures from the wedding, and it's clear that Jake was very pleased with how everything turned out. I've heard through a cousin that he made multiple comments about how I wasn't welcome and that he did everyone a favor by keeping me away. My parents have been trying to mediate, but Emma won't pick up my calls or respond to messages. I feel guilty because I don't want to lose my sister, but I also feel that attending the wedding would have compromised my values and validated Jake's behavior. I'm starting to wonder if I overreacted or if I should have gone to the wedding despite my concerns. Was I wrong to refuse to attend? Or was I justified in protecting myself and taking a stand against Jake's behavior? AITA, thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss new uploads. And feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean the world to me. See you in the next video.